AI bot portion. So they don't actually have the full suite of functionalities live. And so for this next pilot phase, we are actually looking for 2 stores, 2 dealerships per region to test out for the month of October the entire suite of functionalities. So we are in a test environment as well. So if you guys see anything wonky popping up on my screen, or some changes that are slow to take place, it's most likely due to it being in the test environment. So this screen should look familiar to everybody that's on this call. The only thing that might look new or different now is we have this little chat bubble icon on the bottom right-hand corner, and pretending, if I'm pretending to be a customer here, I'm going to click on it, and it's going to pop up a chat. So this is Wilson Toyota. It's going to say, how can I help you today? I've seen one of the pilot stores, their initial message says, type hi to get started. So I believe the message can be customized somewhat. So as a customer, right, we are going to expect it to be automated. And if I were to type in hi, the automated AI chatbot will come on, and it'll tell them they're a search bot, and it'll ask the customer, are they looking for a new or pre-owned vehicle? And then the last blurb is, if you're anything like me, I want to be connected to somebody right away if I know there's a live person, pun intended, on the other end. And so if that customer is like me, they can just type agent right away, and they will be connected with somebody at the dealership. But the goal or the purpose of this is to allow the AI bot to do as much of the heavy lifting in guiding a customer to that end vehicle as possible. So that way we don't have to rely on an agent at the dealership and take resources away from them if we don't need to. And so if a customer were to say, okay, I'm looking for a new vehicle, they could just click that. And now the bot will pull up a carousel of some new vehicles, right? And you can see this carousel. The customer can go from left to right, and by default, how it's going to be ordered is the vehicles that the customers see first are going to be the ones that have the most available. So as you can see here, Tacoma's got 8, Camry's got 5, but as I go further right, they're going to get lesser and lesser. And I did notice while testing earlier, my initial hi, instead of saying hi, I told the bot that I was looking for a new Camry. It essentially skipped all of this and having to click on new vehicle. It skipped all of that and just sent me right to new vehicles. So there's some good logistics in the background that, depending on what a customer might type in, it'll send them to the proper channels. So at this stage, if a customer wants to pick a Camry, they can click on this, 5 available vehicles. It'll take the customer over to the Camry listing page, where they can make a selection to go into the deal price estimator screen. If the customer wants to view, the entire inventory, they can click this link, or they can just close the chat. If they're already on this page. If they're on another page, they would just click on view full inventory, and it'll take them back to this main vehicle listing page. If the customer requires additional help, they can click I need help. And I need help essentially has the same action as if they were to type agent into the message. So if I click that, and so long as the dealership has somebody on the other end to take the chat, the tool will connect the customer with the agent. And so as you can see up here, I've got a little notification that says something's happening. I click over, and it says I've got 1 incoming message. And on my headset, I got a telephone ringing noise sound effect, and I've been hearing that nonstop for the past week. So I'm going to hit accept. And now you can see this is kind of like the full view of how the BDC personnel or internet personnel at a dealership is able to get as much of the information from the customer as possible, as well as helping them along the process without relying on the customer to find a car, build out a payment, and then submit that old school lead form. The lead form certainly works, but most of the dealerships I launch SmartPath at nowadays, every one of them always ask, hey, is there a way to proactively get ahead of having a customer, having to submit a lead form before we can contact them or before we can help them out. So starting from top and going to the bottom here, up top, this is kind of just informational for whoever's in this screen. We've got one open chat, we've got one pending chat, and we've got currently 0 overdues, and CSAT is the customer satisfaction score. So I've got one open, it's pending. The reason why it's pending is because I've yet to reply to the customer. The overdue, the amount of time that a chat has to stay idle or unanswered before it counts as overdue is something that is customizable by the dealership. And now moving from column to column or pane to pane, on the far right or far left, I should say, we've got a list of all of the chats that may be available to a particular agent. The second pane would be the history so far of what the communication history between a customer and the dealership has been. You can see if you scroll up, this is everything that has gone back and forth between a customer. This third pane is some customer info. If this customer were to have logged in via their Toyota owner's account, it will actually show their name. And also before, it showed, what city they're currently logging in from. So that way a dealership is able to see if this customer is within their PMA or it's somebody that's, way outside of their area, just looking for a car to buy. And then moving down, we've got some more technical stuff, what browser they're logged in from, if they're desktop or mobile, operating system, all that technical good stuff. The fourth pane, we've got some predefined messages. So these are messages that are already in there. If somebody from the dealership wishes to use any of these to greet a customer or move the conversation along, they can just expand a category and just click on it, and it'll load it into the chat. And then lastly, the pane or the page navigation column, it essentially allows you to track what page on the website the customer was at. So how it's currently sorted is it's going to go from earliest to latest. Hopefully we can actually flip that to show latest to earliest. And so, if you look at this link, for instance, if I were to click it, it'll take me to the last page that the customer left off at. Any questions so far?
What tool is this? What company is this tool through?
This is LivePerson.
So they'll have to have a separate, like a separate login, everything like that during the rollout. We go through all that information.
Yeah. So the plan is to put that login within Dealer Daily. Like, yes, they will have their separate login and everything accounts through LivePerson, but we're going to put everything in Dealer Daily under the SmartPath section. So that way, when somebody goes and opens MST, they can just click on this as well and open it up at the same time. So that way they don't have to, yep, no problem. Yeah, the idea is not to have people go to, multiple sites to log in multiple places. Hopefully we can just have them click on the link in Dealer Daily and it'll log them in automatically. All right. Okay, so I'm going to jump into more of the functionalities of actually communicating with a customer now. So as you can see, I've yet to respond for this customer. So I'll go ahead and respond. Hello, this is Joey from Wilson. How can I help you today? And from a customer perspective, you can see they get the chat right away. And I'll just say, hi, I'm looking for a Camry. Do you guys have any? We'll just pretend that the customer hasn't seen. There's a Camry right here that says one vehicle. Sort of thing. So at this point, if a customer says, they're specifically looking for a Camry, the dealership can do multiple things. They can do it the old-fashioned way, right? Go to their website, go to their Camry listing page, and take the link and dump it right into here, and then send it over to the customer. Customer can click on it, right? That's probably the way that the dealership is going to be the most used to today. But now with this tool, there's going to be more options for a dealership to help out a customer. As you can see, a couple of things we've got at the bottom. Add emoji, self-explanatory. Adding attachments, right? They can now send a VSpec or whatever features of a car directly to a customer via this chat. They can actually help a customer co-browse as well. And so co-browsing is, if I were to click on that, it allows the personnel at the dealership to view only, as in just have just be able to see what a customer is doing, or they can have that full two-way back and forth. Somebody at the dealership can actually take control of the customer's browser and walk them through the experience. So I'm going to just go ahead and share or show the shared experience. It's going to ask the customer to grant permission. I'm going to hit accept. So now you can see we're in this co-browse session. And now from a dealership perspective, I'm able to see what a customer is seeing. So now if I go back to the customer's perspective, you can see one of the things that a customer sees now is this yellow mouse cursor that says Dev Test. Dev Test is this test live person account. If this was a real dealership environment, it would probably be either the dealership's name or that individual person's name. And if I go back to the live person, you can see that the dealership is able to see where the customer's cursor is. So both sides are able to follow. If I'm a customer and I'm confused, the dealership can point me along the way, say, hey, click here, and I'm able to follow along. And likewise, if I scroll on the page on the dealership side, say I stop at Sequoia, I come to the customer side, it stops at where the dealership scrolled down to. And likewise, if I come up on the customer side, on the dealership side, it'll scroll up as well. Now, as a dealership, I can click on a link. I've noticed on this end, it doesn't go to the next page, but, well, maybe it does. It just takes a minute to load. But on a customer side, it'll actually take them to the next page as well. So this will be really helpful in walking a customer along, especially on the payment estimator page when they're building everything out, helping them, walking them through accessories, walking them through protection products, expanding the interest rate options that are available to a customer. I think this function will be very helpful in that aspect. All right. The one thing that we're hoping to get LivePerson to implement in the future is you can see while I'm sharing my screen, while we're co-browsing, I'm unable to initiate a phone call, right? So in this moment in time, how a dealership is going to have to walk a customer through it is picking up a phone and calling the customer manually, or maybe more cumbersome, but they can always walk them through using the chat as well. But like I said, that's something that we're going to see with LivePerson if that's something they can enable simultaneously. All right, so I'm going to close that. And then the next function or feature, I should say, is the voice call. So this is essentially just a phone call without actually picking up the phone on the dealership side. So if I were to initiate that, it's going to once again ask the customer to accept the call. I'm going to accept it. And hopefully it'll ask the browser to enable. Okay, so it enabled it already with the microphone. I'm hearing my own echo here. But as you can see, it's picking up the customer talking, and then it's also picking up the agent talking. So the voice call, pretty self-explanatory. And then finally, the video call, which I think is probably going to be one of the most welcome features for a lot of our stores, because it's going to enable them to create that connection with the customer without the customer even having to leave their home. Right. So if I were to click that, obviously the dealership would be asking for permission from the customer. Hey, do you want to get on camera and have a chat about Camrys or whatever? It's going to ask the customer to accept it. I'm not going to hit accept in this case because the background of my room here is a mess. But I guarantee you, I hit accept. It's going to ask for permission for the cameras to be turned on, and once the camera turns on, it's essentially just like a Teams call or a Zoom call between the dealership and the customer. Right, so I'm going to reject that. Any questions about those? That's pretty much the full, well, I don't want to say full, but it's pretty much most of the meat and potatoes of the tool. The focus is going to be on the communication tools like the phone and the voice call to be able to get with that customer and making sure they don't need to go through the whole MSTC experience first before putting in a lead form before it comes into the CRM and the dealership being able to contact the customer. And speaking of CRM, the CRM integration with LivePerson is separate, but it is capable. It just needs to be turned on. And, right now we've not seen any, in the testing phase, we've not seen any integration issues with any of the popular CRMs that our dealerships use. So it's as easy as, if we put a push the CRM button up here somewhere, that way, even if the push is not automatic, just training our dealerships to, at the end of a discussion or a conversation, just pushing the conversation history over to their CRM. That way they're able to keep track of everything. So any questions on that? Hang on, I need to check the chat. Two-way Zoom. Yes, Gary, two-way Zoom. So long as both sides have a camera and a microphone, it'll be two-way Zoom and two-way voice call. All right, and then lastly here, I just want to briefly touch on the manager's workspace. So this is pretty much where all the analytics will lie. Not every agent at a dealership will have this manager access. So there's going to be different levels of account access. But essentially from this page, a manager is able to keep track of how their live personnel are performing, as well as if they're using any bots, how those bots are performing. How how many customers ended the journey by just utilizing a bot, and how many are using that live human being on the other end. Right. So from a general overall perspective up here, right, we've get, how many chats are assigned, how many are overdue, what the load is, right? And the load is something that's going to be different from dealership to dealership. How many closed conversations by agent, by the customer, by the system that, you stay idle for too long, it'll end the conversation. Customer satisfaction score. Let me actually just end this conversation and see. So every time a customer ends a conversation, or an agent can actually end the conversation from their end as well. It'll ask the customer for a review. So let me do that now. Okay, maybe I ended it already. But at the end of that, it'll ask for the customer to give, how many stars out of 5. And then once that gets in there, the CSAT score will update pretty quickly. We've also got response time. So first response time, how long it took to respond from the initial assignment, and then our average response time and average response from assignment, as well as our resolution time. And then down here, we've got our individual agents. So, these are all going to be test accounts. I believe this dev test account is the only one that's a live human being test account. So you can see that's why it's always online. But essentially, it'll let managers keep track of how each of their individual people are doing in terms of handling their chat or communication load. And then likewise with the bots, this is pretty self-explanatory. And down here, you can keep track of all the conversations that have either been closed or are currently still open.
Hey, Joey.
Yep.
2 questions. If it's after hours, no agents available, does it send out a phone number to say, sorry, no one can respond to you? What's it say?
Yeah, so after hours, if there's nobody available, the bot will take over. And, if somebody says agent or says I need help, it'll tell them that there's not any available agents available, but it'll ask the customer for their name, first and last name, as well as their email address. So some sort of a contact information for the dealership to make contact with the following day or when somebody is available.
Got it. Thank you. And then second question, if a customer picks 1 out of 5 stars, does that trigger an additional oh, what did we do wrong type of message? Or
I've not seen that. Either it's because it's a test or that's just not something that's being done. I think from my perspective, I think that's probably something that's just more internal for the dealership. If their CSAT score is consistently low, then they're able to pick up on that and train their personnel how they see fit.
Yeah,
but no, I don't.
Yeah. No worries. Thank you.
Yep.
Hey, Joey, if I can, add something.
Sure.
So we can have post things. We can have post conversation survey bot. So the star rating is the default, but if dealership wants to have more, questions asked after the star rating, we can, build that bot as well and integrate.
Thank you.
Joey, I have a question about the survey as well.
Yeah.
I may have missed this initially. Did you say the dealerships get to set the rules on how many times that's solicited, i.e. if a customer checks in multiple times within the week, will it always offer that prompt up, or does the dealership set the rules for the star rating system? Thank you.
So are you referring to if a customer rates a conversation and then comes back in 2 days, has another conversation, will it prompt them to rate it again?
Correct. I mean, especially if it's a similar issue or them following up with the dealership.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to come up with a million scenarios or what ifs, but I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. But will it prompt the customer every time, or will the dealership be able to set the rule for that? I guess what's the methodology on that?
Yeah, I'll ask Meenakshi. Would you happen to know if that's something that is able to be toggled or set up by a dealership if they want that customer satisfaction score prompt every time?
Yeah, by default, it prompts every time, but I believe there is a setting which we can, do in the backend. So let's say it will not prompt again for the next, 3 conversations or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I think most dealerships will want that prompt to come up after every conversation, right? That way they're able to
Okay,
keep track. Yeah.
that's great. It by default it comes up every time. So every conversation is rated separately.
Okay. Perfect. Sterling, you good on that answer?
Thank you.
All right. No problem. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'm going to give you half an hour back or so.
Oh, yeah, rollout. What's the so we picked the 2 dealers, Joey, then
Mhm.
then what?
So right now the plan is giving the regions until the 16th to pick those 2 dealers. I will then give that file over to Meenakshi and her team. The setup does take roughly 2 weeks per dealership, but the setup can be done concurrently with all the dealerships. And then the month of October will just be used for those dealerships to pilot and give us feedback, what's working, what's not working. Hopefully, the pilot dealerships that are chosen have the adequate manpower to man the chat or use the phone feature or the video feature. And then the idea is once we get some feedback, come October, November, start thinking about pushing this out to existing SmartPath dealerships, and then further down the road, Q4 of fiscal year 23, allowing our net new nominated stores to be, asking them on the nomination during the nomination process, is this something that you're interested in using? If they say yes, then we enable it for them and we train them on, include this as a part of the training process and train them on how to use it.
So during that 2-week period for the pilot stores, someone will reach out to the store to train them on Live Agent, how to use all this, or Live Person, I don't know, how to use the different functionality.
Yeah. So if you have any stores that wants a demo or wants a training, just let me know. Look on my calendar and pick an hour slot, and I'll get on the phone with them and train them. Cool. Anybody else? All right, going once, twice. You guys can have 25 minutes of your day back. Appreciate you guys this afternoon for joining, and hopefully this will excite you guys and our dealers as much as it excited me when I first laid eyes on it a week ago. So thank you guys, and have a great day.